It is episode number 51. We have moved past the first 50 and we're into the next 50. It's the Gashouse Gang presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Alongside of Pauley Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. Great to have you with us once again. Our Friday edition of the program. Of course, our housekeeping items here at the top. If you want to comment, feel free to do so on whatever channel you're watching. And for folks who aren't watching, maybe listening to the podcast or listening to the radio replay, hello to you as well. Bernie, happy Friday. Great to see you as always.
Always great to work with you, Mr. Matt Pauley, and been enjoying listening to, last night, listened to the podcast you did with Claibs and Rob Serfolio. That was really, really good. I learned a lot. So thank you for doing that.
Let's jump right into that then. You said,
sure.
What struck you? So for folks who don't know, yesterday on the Countdown to Opening Day show, which is available at KMOX.com, and go to the podcast feed for Cardinals Conversations. And we did about 40 minutes with Rob Serfolio, the new assistant GM for player development and performance. And he's a really, really impressive guy. I'll tell you what. And I really enjoyed talking with him. I have some thoughts, but Bernie, what struck you from what you heard from Rob Serfolio?
Yeah, like I said in a text message I sent to you this morning, there was a lot that I really liked about it. But the thing that maybe excited me the most, because I know he's a smart guy. I know the baseball stuff, he's going to bring a lot to the table. And that's the most important thing, the baseball stuff, and getting the Cardinals player development system, back online and back to where it used to be. So I have high confidence over there. But the thing I liked about it, and I'm really not trying to take a kind of a pile-on shot at John Mozeliak or anyone else. But if you think about it, the Cardinals have had pretty much the same people speaking for them in a prominent role to the fans and media for a very, 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 very long time. And yeah, they've changed some managers, so that's been a shuffle there. But I'm talking about more like front office management. And Serfolio, in terms of explaining what's going on and what they're doing and why they're excited and, why all the changes that they're starting to make and all the people that they're starting to bring in and all the methods that they're going to incorporate. He is so excited about it and he's so enthusiastic about it. And he has so much positive energy. I found myself like making sure, I wouldn't say I was leaning forward, but if I was kind of looking at my phone and then he started to say something, I'd be like, oh what? Okay. Like I really wanted to hear the guy. And I think it's good for the Cardinals to have a fresh voice speaking to the public, because how can you get the fans excited about what's going on below the major league system unless you bring on through the media or whatever, someone like Serfolio who can share his excitement and enthusiasm. That's the only way you're going to kind of get the fans going too, I think.
Bernie, I told people ahead of time, listen to this, because right now, with Chaim Bloom not really doing much with the media, he did talk to Cardinals Magazine, the current edition. So if you want to read a little bit from him, I would encourage you to do that. And the folks at Cardinals Magazine are incredible with the work that they do. But if you want to hear somebody speak in terms of organizational philosophy moving forward, that's it. Like I think the words that came out of Rob Serfolio's mouth yesterday would be very similar to the words that would come out of Chaim Bloom's mouth if we were asking him the same questions.
Right. And it's just so obvious that, and this is true of Bloom. We know this already about him, even though he, has not been, publicly speaking hardly at all. But we know that these are really smart guys. And we know that they're going to do a heck of a job with the Cardinals. But when you listen to Serfolio, and to your point, my friend, this is also true of Chaim Bloom, you just know that the Cardinals have brought in some really smart people, and they're going to look at the game a different way, and they're going to advance the cause in some of the areas where the Cardinals allowed to slip. They have a philosophy. And the other thing that fired me up about it, this is along the lines that you said, but I'm just going to throw another point in. It's so obvious to them. It's so obvious to me listening to them, that they want to have everyone in the organization connected, operating out of the same playbook, operating from the same philosophy, very consistent teaching methods, very consistent everything, where the guys on the major league club talking about Ollie and the staff, the guys in the front office that aren't involved directly with the minor leagues, everyone working in the minor leagues, like everyone is going to be reading from the same page. And frankly, I don't know that it's been that way for a while.
A couple things that struck me on the conversation. First off, his I'm going to use the word holistic, and I'm not like trying to go into some sort of room with spa music. When I say holistic, I mean he's looking at everything. He wants the players to be the best self physically, emotionally, mentally, like seeing that all of that adds up to the best possible ball player. And it's an organization now that's going to look at every single thing. They're going to try to put player plans together for every minor league player that involves all of that. It's you are at your best when the system is tailored to all parts of you. And that seems to be something that he was really passionate about, which I think is pretty cool.
And I think that's really important. Now, some people may sneer at that, people that are much more old school inclined might laugh at all this stuff, which I think would be a terrible mistake, because here's the point. Other organizations, in fact, frankly, the smartest organizations and the most successful organizations are incorporating all of this, like the total person, total player, putting everything together and giving their young players everything they need to reach their maximum in terms of being successful. Once again, that has been an issue for the Cardinals. So I love anything they're going to do to try to give their young players, their young prospects, the best of everything to make them the best.
Rob told, I don't know if this made it onto the show, or if it was just me and him talking after we were done recording. And even if not, I think he's okay with me sharing this. He said to me, he's doing his job well when he is helping create really hard decisions for John Mozeliak currently and Chaim Bloom eventually, in the sense that there are so many players sitting there ready for a promotion that the organization has a hard time deciding which guy is going to do it. That's how he views him being successful.
To add to that, and one thing about the Cardinals minor league system, and fans have made this point, and I've tried to explain them, that we're not talking about the talent that's down there. We're talking about the instruction, the teaching, the overall program to make them the best they can be. That's been lacking. No one has said that they're like the cupboard is bare. There's no talent. They're actually adding more and more talent to their minor league system. They have some pretty exciting players. But isn't it nice to know what I'm going to be looking for this year? How many of these guys, and most of the names are familiar, some of the names aren't so familiar. But a year from now, or let's just say at the end of the 2025 season, how many minor leaguers that are already in the system that have some potential, how many of those guys are going to take a jump next season simply because the inside program has changed to make them better? I'm really, really, really fascinated by that. So we may see some of these kids, maybe a lot of these kids, just reach another level in terms of performance, because they are going to have everything they need now. And that's exciting as someone who believes this is a huge, huge deal for the Cardinals. It may not sell tickets. It may not, pump up the TV ratings, because it's happening below the major leagues. But it is vitally important that this is happening. And listening to Rob Cerfolio last night, it did nothing to diminish my enthusiasm for the regime changes down in the minor leagues and having him in charge.
Last thing on this, and then we'll move on. And I just think this is important for Cardinals fans to hear, because anytime a 38-year-old, I think he's 38, he's in that area. Anytime somebody like that walks in who talks and uses words that maybe you're not used to hearing, you go, oh, what's going on here? I think he's got some old school to him. He talked about, John Stupar was his college coach at Yale. He didn't realize it at the time, because some of the Cardinal way stuff was being instilled in him there. He talked about scouts and how, scouts are a lot of things going on with data right now. Is data is able to back up what scouts are seeing with their eyes. He's not somebody who wants to throw scouts out or anything like that. So yeah, he looks at baseball in a very current, not trendy, but just he's very current in the way he looks at things. But I also think he understands the things that have always existed in the game, that will always exist in the game, and how important those things are.
Well, that's exactly right. And one of the things that's annoyed me for quite a few years now is that when we talk about these young executives that have taken over baseball operations or taken over supervision of the minor leagues and player development, and we hear them, speak the Billy Bean language or the Theo Epstein language or whatever, or that's a turnoff to some people because they think, to your point, they think that this means they're taking old school baseball guys out of it. Like there's no room for them. They don't care about scouts. They don't care about traditional stuff. Nothing could be further from the truth. What they're doing is getting as much information as they can based on advanced methods of getting information. And then they can sit down with the scouts, the old school guys, if you will, and you have the best of both worlds. You got guys who have an eye for talent, but now they're going to learn more. They're going to learn maybe some things to look out for when they scout. And then you're going to have the new stuff with the old school stuff, and you're putting it together. And that's what all these successful organizations do. And that's what this incoming Cardinals regime will be doing. And I think that's really a cool thing. And there's no reason for, hey, listen, I'm an old timer. Okay. I'm going to be 66 next month. This old timer's not afraid of anything new. Embrace it. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's all fine. It's going to be good.
Says the old school columnist who now rocks it on YouTube. So you're living what you are speaking here at the moment. That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. It's the Gashouse Gang presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, something that is old school because they've always done things the right way and continue to do things the right way. Saliga Heating and Cooling.
That's what I mean, man. Old school. I love old school. I am old school. And Saliga Heating and Cooling is old school from the standpoint that the same family, 4 generations, have owned it continuously since 1927. So you realize all that generational knowledge passed down from one Saliga to the other? Seriously, Dan Saliga, who runs the place and owns it now, is a really, really smart guy, but he also understands it's not just, well, the equipment or, hey, we have a new way to do this. We have a new way to do that. It's more effective. It's more efficient. We can save you money. But he's got that old school wisdom because this has been in their family. This has been their family business going back to the late 1920s, and they've carried forward the principles and the ethics and the customer service dedication that really makes them special. So with Saliga, you really are getting the best of both worlds. And I highly recommend them because we've been a Saliga family for 16 years, and this independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer can take great care of you. Of course, there's repairs. They install that new American Standard equipment if you need it. They do residential and commercial work. I want to direct you to their site, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, and take a look at the Priority Club. It's a maintenance program. We've been members of it for about 5, maybe 6 years, maybe longer than that. And we have saved money because of it, because they check your equipment a couple times a year, usually before it gets cold, usually before it gets real hot, just to make sure everything's working. And you'll not only have peace of mind, but you'll save a lot of money over the long run because it can extend the equipment life that you have. Anyway, financial options are available. One more time, just go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Alongside of Bernie Miklasz, I'm Matt Pauley. It's the Gashouse Gang. We are presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Continue to talk a little bit of baseball. Yesterday, we learned what non-roster players, Bernie, were going to get the invite to Major League Spring Training, and that's always such a big deal for young ball players when they get their first opportunity in Big League Spring Training. And there's a lot of interesting names. J.J. Weatherholt, Chase Davis, Cooper Jerpy, Quinn Matthews, Jimmy Crooks, Leonardo Bernal are all going to get opportunities in Major League spring training games. I'll tell you, when I was at the winter meetings, there was a conversation with a lot of us in the media about, hey, is Weatherholt actually going to get the invite to Major League spring training? And I thought it was a no-brainer. Of course he is. There's some people who didn't, but this guy's likely to be a big leaguer by the end of the season. Why wouldn't you get him into big league spring training this year?
Yeah, no question about it. And I also think, again, the baseball is the most important stuff. Like what he'll be able to do for the Cardinals on the field in the future is the most important stuff. But I also think the Cardinals are going to have to give reasons to fans to get excited again. And the more that they can see and hear and read about and listen to things about J.J. Weatherholt, the better it is for the organization in terms, again, getting that buy-in from the fans who understand that player development is a really big deal. And, by the way, it looks like they have a real winner in this kid. So I think it's really, really smart. And it definitely was a no-brainer. The same with Quinn Matthews. Like, why wouldn't he be there? I mean, there's a guy this was the Baseball America minor league pitcher of the year. That is a vaunted award. Mm-hmm. And all the other guys you mentioned too, but I'm interested in seeing, maybe away, like off Broadway guys, so to speak. They drafted that outfielder in 2022 in the 11th round. You shrug, you're like, okay, Nathan Church, who is this, right? And, last season he made it to Double-A. He hit for pretty good average. He had a pretty good on base. The power wasn't there yet, but it was okay. But he went to the fall league and just ripped it up. He turned some heads at the fall league. So they've invited Nathan Church to minor league camp or major league camp. And that's the kind of guy that, really, really, really can sort of move himself up in the eyes of the organization because you get to see him. All the decision makers get to see him every day. Another guy that intrigues me, and injuries have gotten in the way with him, is Ian Bedell, because when he's right, he's nasty. He strikes out a lot of hitters. I could see, for example, an Ian Bedell entering the major league bullpen mix this year if he's on a good track down in the minors. He's got the stuff to do that. So those are just a couple examples of some guys that aren't like the A-listers that I'd like to look at.
Max Radjic in 2023 was so good, and then he took a little bit of a step back this past year. Who is he? And you could start to learn that a little bit in spring training. I've talked to countless guys who have told me that as a young player, when you get that opportunity for the first time in big league spring training, even if you're not going to get to the big leagues this year, it's a chance to either face some big league hitting or to face big league pitching, and that it gives you kind of a new lease on where you need to go as a ball player. It also, there's the emotional side of it, Bernie. There's when you get that call, you're playing for a team, an organization that you feel like, okay, these guys really believe in me because they're giving me this shot. I just think you don't want too many guys there, but there's so much value in getting young players, especially early on in spring training when 9 million guys play. There's so much value in getting these guys involved and just watching how some of the older players go, before games even start, watch the older guys, how they go about their business, how they go about their stretch, how they go about everything. There's value in all of that.
One of the spring trainings I covered, or a couple of them, I should say, during a specific time frame. One of the things that really impressed me was a guy like Matt Holliday, because Matt Holliday felt that part of his job for the Cardinals, not just playing left field and hitting well, but was to kind of put his arm around some of the young kids who showed up at spring training. It's their first time, especially. And he took an active interest in them, by just talking to them, telling them, hey, here's how I got ready in spring training. This is how I prepare myself. I'd stay away from this. Don't be lifting weights too much or whatever it may be. He would give them great guidance. But when you're a guy in spring training for the first time and someone, I don't know how many all-star teams Matt Holliday made, but it's a lot. When a guy like that just comes up to you and makes it clear that he's going to be watching you and helping you and is really, really cares about what you're doing in camp. I mean, as you were saying, what a tremendous boost that is for the psyche of a young player. It can be so uplifting, and I think that's one thing I hope the Cardinals can reestablish that this spring as a new leadership group kicks in. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, 100%. One other quick baseball thing I wanted to get to before we move
Sure.
to some other things on the program. And I know you and Wheels talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we learned yesterday about the passing of Bob Uecker, former St. Louis Cardinal, longtime Milwaukee Brewers broadcaster, grew up in Milwaukee, biggest celebrity in Milwaukee. Most people know I spent 6-7 years in Milwaukee doing Brewers pre and Brewers post game. Bertie, I was surprised yesterday when I got the news. I felt so empty and so sad, and I'd be disingenuous to say that I was best friends with Bob Uecker. I wasn't. We were colleagues. We knew each other. We talked on occasion, but he was very surrounded by folks, and it was hard to get a lot of time with him because of who he was. But man, oh man. A guy whose career I don't think can never be mimicked when you think about going from professional ball player to the comedy stuff he did, the acting stuff he did, going on Carson, being a really good broadcaster, both at the national level and the local level, always being the funniest guy in the room, doing things from a giving standpoint that people never even knew about, representing an entire organization, being the soul and the heart of the organization. Man, I'm still feeling it today, but I was really empty yesterday when I got that news.
Well, I was particularly glad. I'm always happy you and I get a chance to work together on this Friday Gashouse Gang, but I was looking forward to it because I've said a lot about Bob Uecker over the last 24 hours, and my thought was I'm not going to really add anything because you were on the scene, you were in the broadcast booth, you were in the press box up in Milwaukee. So you got a great chance to observe Bob Uecker. You got a great chance at times to talk to him and be around him, but you also got a great chance to just see how he treated others, like yourself, aspiring play-by-play people that wanted to make a step in their career. And sometimes that's not easy. You have like a legend. Some of them are great. Some of them are just kind of eh. And so I'm going to shut up now, and I want you to please just fill us in terms of what a classy guy he was. Any young person that wandered in the vicinity of that broadcast booth.
Yeah, and look, he was great, and they actually, especially after COVID, it was hard to get around him because he was dealing with health issues for a while, and they closed off his radio booth, and they didn't want a lot of people going in there because he was the biggest celebrity. But when you were around him, he enjoyed talking to everybody. It didn't matter if you were the president of the United States or if you were the person cleaning up the ballpark after the game. He treated everybody exactly the same, and he did things. In I think it was 2018, they lost to the Dodgers in 7 games in the NLCF. I think it was 2018, not 2017. The players, Bernie, they voted him a playoff share. Have you ever heard of a broadcaster being voted a playoff share?
Not really.
It doesn't happen. He took all that money and he immediately gave it to charity. He wasn't going to do anything with that money. I don't think he ever signed a contract with the Brewers. He always had a handshake agreement. Most recently with Atanasio, the owner, with Selig. Beforehand, he loved being in the clubhouse. That was where he was most comfortable. He wanted to be around the players. The players loved being around him. He was still very relatable. I think I've told this story a couple times, but I'll say it again. When his health was failing, we now know that he had been dealing with cancer since 2023. He didn't do a lot of games this past year, Bernie. And when the Brewers got to the playoffs, he was not on the broadcast for game 1. And a lot of people went, oh, if you're missing playoff games, that means maybe something serious is going on. Brewers lost that game. He came to the ballpark for game 2, did not go on the air, but he was there. So the season could have ended that night if the Brewers would have lost, and he would have been there. They won. Game 3, he's not on the broadcast until the 9th inning. And he comes on and he does the 9th inning. And that was the Pete Alonso home run. So it was a pretty terrible moment for the Milwaukee Brewers. And after the game gets over, and he had a long sign-off, a really long sign-off, and you could hear the emotion in his voice. And then after the game, he went down to the clubhouse Bernie, he spent so much time down there talking to everybody. And it's clear now he knew that was going to be his last moment inside that clubhouse.
That's a great story. And that's a poignant story as well. Yeah, the way players loved him. I was reading some stuff about that yesterday. They wanted him in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
They really wanted him there. They treated him as well. To say they treated him as an equal is kind of an understatement. They treated him as an icon, a Milwaukee icon, someone who they all just looked up to in every single way. And the thing about Uecker, when I was talking about him yesterday, I did a video that I just kind of did an ad lib video about him. And the whole time I was smiling and laughing. And I thought, why people are probably thinking, why are you giggling? He died. And the reason I was laughing and smiling and giggling because of the stories and the memories is that because what an extraordinary life. Not 90 years old and doing everything that he loved. Everything that he loved. Baseball. Fishing.
He was sharp, Bernie. He was so sharp. He was always the funniest guy in the room. And he was the best deadpan comedian ever. Right. He never broke.
But he lived a life of baseball. He lived a life of fishing, which he was passionate about. He loved comedy. He became a comedian. That opened some doors. He got to act out on some dreams, being with Johnny Carson, having a hit TV show, having a hit movie, 18 acting credits. He was even towards the end, providing his voice for some cartoon animations. Everything he wanted to do in life, he attained, and he did it with great joy and happiness, and he made everyone else happy. So, of course, I was sad when he died. But my point is, it was such an exemplary life and such a full life that I could only hope that all of us lived to 90 and had the kind of life that this man had. How many of us get to be so happy in our own lives, but also make others happy because of our presence?
Yeah. I'm
going to smile at that every day of the week. I was sad, but man, Miller, here's a Miller Lite toast to Bob Uecker, because what a life. What a life.
Be in the front row.
That's right. He is now.
Yeah.
He is now.
He is for sure. It's the Gashouse Gang. We're presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Just a reminder for you, you can hop on the Camo X Sports YouTube and subscribe to the channel. You can set up notifications, so when we go live, it tells you right away. And, of course, follow and subscribe to Bernie's YouTube channel at The Bernie Show.
Thank you.
Bernie, right now, from last night until this moment, this is about as fired up as I've been in a positive fashion about the St. Louis Blues. I can't tell you how many times in the last 2 years the Blues have been on a great roll, and they're like one win away from making it a really special thing, and they always lose that stinking game. They always lose that game, and a lot of times it's to a bad team. And what do? They roll over Calgary last night 4-1. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot. I know this team is flawed. I know there's issues. I know the core group of guys are the same guys. I got Craig Berube and Drew Bannister fired. I know red flags pop up. I know sometimes they don't show up. I know all these things, but I was pretty fired up about last night's win. That was a great win.
Well, I've been jacked up since they hired Montgomery, because I had a strong sense of what he would do for this team. And it's not because he was a new coach. It transcended that. It's because he's an excellent coach and an excellent communicator. And a lot of the players on the team already knew him. And he has a great style, a great manner with players. The fact he got fired in Boston was more about the front office and more about him in the front office, and not maybe sharing a philosophy. But they're a different team, and they've been a different team. See, I never got demoralized or bummed out when they would have these mini slumps where they wouldn't score much, because the overall improvement has been breathtaking. Since he took over, they're tied for 10th in the league in points percentage. They've scored 60% of the goals at 5-on-5. If you look at the way he's improved their goal scoring, their offense, 5-on-5, they've been in terms of like 5-on-5 goals per 60 minutes, number 5 in the league since he took over. Same at even strength, number 5, number 6 at all strength. They've cut way down on goals against where they were bleeding before he took over, just bleeding. 5-on-5 goals against per 60 minutes, number 3. So he's got the number 5 5-on-5 offense and the number 3 5-on-5 goal prevention. And look at the dramatic improvement of a Braden Shen and a Colton Parayko since he took over, right? Look at how quickly Cam Fowler fit in. I mean, Montgomery has reorganized this team. You know, he's reorganized it in ways that maybe aren't like easily understandable or obvious, but you can just see it in the bottom line performance. And you can see it in the way some really important players to this season's team have elevated their games. Look at Dylan Holloway. Look at what he's been able to do with him. You know, the list could go on and on and on. Like you said, man, they have some soft spots. They have some roster things. I think they need a number 3 center. And I think Doug Armstrong will pursue that responsibly. But I believe in the Blues because, you know, I sound like a jerk, and I really don't mean to. It's because I was so excited when they hired him, and I believed that big things were coming. I mean, there would be changes for the better, and so far, so good. Or so far, so great. You know, they were 26th in the league, points percentage when he took over. Since he took over, they're 10th. I mean, there you go, right?
100%. Drew, if you want to put that poll back up, is it time to start believing in the Blues as serious playoff contenders right now? 64% at yes, 36% at no. So there's still some people out there that are not believing. But the bottom line is, it's basically they're tied with Vancouver. Both teams are 1 point back of Calgary. I think I have that right. So basically, it's a dead heat for those 3 teams contending for one playoff spot. I don't think like Utah is probably going to lift up. I don't think Colorado is going to fall down. To me, it looks like those 3 teams are going to get into a sprint and see which one can end up ahead at the end.
They're in the hunt. They weren't going to be in the hunt unless the coaching change was made. It was going to be another really dark, depressing, sad season. Although last season was actually pretty good for a retool season where they made progress. But now they're making more progress under this coach. So, I'm very enthusiastic about the state of the Blues right now, and I think Doug Armstrong will add to this roster, but he'll do it responsibly. I mean, he's not going to sacrifice the future. There's going to be a lot of walk-year guys on the trade market. He'll be able to find something that can strengthen this team's cause or their probability for making the playoffs. No one here is saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup. That's not the point. But what a great step forward it would be just to get to the playoffs right now, right? And that would just – with all the prospects on the way, that would just lead to better. It would be a gateway to even better things in the near future.
It's the Gashouse Gang. We're presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, we love talking about Saliga.
Well, Saliga Heating and Cooling has been taking care of us for 16 years, as I've mentioned. You know, and I know Dan Saliga really well. I love the family business. The Saligas have continuously owned this business since 1927, and as I always like to say about this independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer, when you're trying to decide if you don't have a heating and cooling place that you call, and you're trying to decide, well, who do I call? I'm just going to tell you what I think because it's my experience. 1927, they've been doing this continuously, and they're still going strong. They're still growing. They're still taking care of more and more St. Louis families. The only way that happens with that kind of track record is if you are absolutely great at what you do. And if your integrity is 100% and you're not trying to hustle clients, you're not trying to talk them into buying expensive equipment. Our experience has been the exact opposite. They have found ways to save us money time and time again. So we trust them 100%. They're professional, they're knowledgeable, they're classy in your home. And they have got that track record of great customer service and integrity that goes back to 1927. You know, sometimes I feel like that's all I really need to say. It's a pretty powerful message, but they also have that American standard equipment too. But go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. I want you to look at that Priority Club, becoming a member. It's a maintenance program, and it's really, really, really good. It'll be worth your investment, your minor investment in what it costs to become part of that club. Financing options are available. subject to credit approval. But once again, just go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com and you'll find out a lot more.
That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. This is the Gashouse Gang presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Just a few minutes left in the program. I want to look ahead to an NFL weekend. It's divisional round weekend. According to point spreads, not a great weekend. There's only one game that's got a point spread under 6.5, and that's the Ravens-Bills game, where Baltimore is actually a road favorite. But obviously a lot of focus on the Kansas City Chiefs coming off the bye, Bernie. If they put their game on the field, I don't think they should have too much problem with Houston.
They may have, they may have a little bit of rust. I mean, they haven't played since Christmas, but it's only going to be a little bit of rust. To me, it was more important that they could get their wide receivers fully healthy. They could get some other players banged up. And Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, now has, because of this extra rest they had built in, they've got their top 18 defensive players available for this game. They'll have their starting lineup that they opened the season with in place, intact. And that is a really, really big deal. And look, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's won 20 out of 21 games, the last 20 out of 21. You know, you look at his playoff record. This is his time of the year. Enough said. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, Houston could maybe play him tough, and the Chiefs play a lot of close games, but I think Andy Reid's pedigree, Mahomes' pedigree. Andy Reid has a great record coming off buys or breaks in the schedule. So all signs obviously point to Kansas City.
That Washington-Detroit game feels like Detroit should win it easily, but man, Jaden Daniels is the X factor in this thing. He is so much fun to watch, and if he starts going, maybe it's a little closer towards the end than we expect it to be.
Yeah, I agree. I've become very fond of the Commanders because I love to watch him play. I just also like their story. They got rid of one of the worst human beings in professional sports, the former owner, and now they have a very likable organization all of a sudden. I mean, they're really fun. With this game, though, the problem is the Detroit Lions are incredibly gifted offensively. They can beat you any way. They can pound it. They can run outside. They can run inside between the tackles. Jared Goff's had a fantastic year. They've got all kinds of receivers. Washington, and I've watched a lot of their games, Washington's weakness, their vulnerability this year is their secondary is not very good. They don't generate a very good pass rush. It kind of comes and goes. I just don't see them slowing down that Detroit offense enough to steal that game.
Eagles-Rams on Sunday. Rams are on a pretty good roll. I think Eagles are a better team, and I think all St. Louis folks can just be ready for the Rams playoff run to come to an end.
Yeah, I think I was trying to talk myself in a way into the Rams, not because I'm a Rams fan, but I'm just thinking, that team has been one of the hottest in the league, and so can they go into Philadelphia and win this thing? I was trying to get myself to that point of thinking, oh, yeah, they can go there and win it. Then I remembered and went back and looked it up. In week 12, the Eagles went into L.A. and they rushed for 314 yards. And Barkley piled up 255 rushing yards, 47 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Listen, the Rams defense has improved dramatically, but they've got one thing that makes them a bad matchup for Barkley and the Eagles offense. The Eagles have a great offensive line. They have a great running back. And the Rams defensive tackles inside, the Rams are light. They're small. They're not big and wide and strong enough to kind of corral a guy like Barkley, especially against that offensive line. So I think Philly wins this. I think the Rams made a good run, but I'd be surprised if they win this game.
And then clearly the game of the weekend, Sunday, Ravens, Bills, Lamar Jackson against Josh Allen, 2 teams that have legit Super Bowl aspirations. This could have easily been an AFC championship game if things would have gone a little bit differently. If you want to get fired up and excited about what looks to be just a fantastic game, that's it. And the fact that the Ravens are favored in Buffalo, it's only a point, but still, that just tells you how much of a battle that we're likely to see on Sunday.
This is the game of the year, at least to this point, in terms of going in, the anticipation. Mm-hmm. You have Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, and they're going to finish one and 2 in whatever order in the MVP vote. They both just had their best regular season in their careers, and they've had great careers already. But this is a legacy game. This is a legacy game because one of these guys will lose. Lamar Jackson has not been impressive in his career in the postseason. He was last week against the Steelers, but this is a road game in Buffalo. Lamar Jackson's got a lot to prove. Listen, Josh Allen has a lot to prove. Yes, some of that is because you got Patrick Mahomes standing in the way. But the point is, as great as these two quarterbacks are, legacy for quarterbacks is important, and those legacies for the best must include you win a Super Bowl championship, right? And after this game Sunday night, one of these guys will not have the chance to do that this year, and so there will be more pressure on them going forward. Two great quarterbacks who are still they don't care about individual stuff, but they want to win a Super Bowl for their team and for themselves, because that's the whole goal of being a professional football player in the NFL.
Bernie, as always, I enjoyed the conversation. Have a great weekend, and all four of us will actually. I may not be. I'm gonna be on Cardinal Caravan, so I might not be with you guys on Monday. But the three of you can hold it down.
Where are you heading to?
I am going to Cape Girardeau, Paducah, Evansville, and Marion.
Is that all in one day?
2 days.
Okay.
Days.
All right. I was going to say.
I hit 4 states. I go to 4 states over the thing. So, but it'll be fun. So,
well, listen, Bernie, man, always love talking to you. Thanks. And looking forward to talking again next Friday.
Awesome. Very good. That's Pauley Miklasz. I'm Matt Pauley. It's been the Gashouse Gang, presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling.